Chris Scalzi here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to leave it all behind, head out to Arkansas, and start a new life as farmers, and check in on the Yi family in Minari. It's a critically acclaimed film, Matt, that's getting a little controversy in the awards category stuff. Just the kind of stuff we like to hear. Then after spending some time there in that potentially heartwarming family drama, let's jet set over to Massachusetts as I try and get Matt confined to an assisted living facility to really kind of just get a hold of his assets. Maybe you could say steal them. With my new best gal pal, Rosamund Pike, in I Care a Lot. There's a venerable review of the big releases on physical media featuring the straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. And Matt and I are going to go ahead and wrap up the big show with the return of the lounge. We're going to chill out, folks. We're going to talk about Pedro, everybody's favorite Pascal, the Black Superman, and then, of course, probably everything that'll just make you turn off the episode right away. Maybe we'll touch on a little cancel culture, because everybody loves that stuff. So let's start everything off, though, with a clip from Minari.
어느 사람이 그랬어? 아니, 저렇게 무거운 걸 어떻게 들었어? 그렇게 무거운 걸 혼자 들었어? 아이고. 자, 어디? 일어나봐. 옳지. 자. 오케이. 자, 걸어봐. 아이고, 스트롱 보이. 스트롱 보이. 왜? 이런 소리 처음 들어봤어? 데이비사, 너는 스트롱 보이야. 할머니가 본 사람 중에서 제일 스트롱 보이야.
Just a mantra Matt repeats to himself every night before he goes to bed, that he is a strong boy. Matt, what is Minari all about?
Minari is about a Korean family in the 80s who leave California and move to Arkansas to start a family farm. It's really been about their family struggles and how they're coping being immigrants in a deep South environment.
So, Matt, is it a quintessential American story or just kind of a dull, meandering melodrama about farming?
It can be both, right? It can be two things a little bit, right? It is, I think, a quintessential American story. I mean, Americans, for the most part, are a land of immigrants. You go back far enough, most Americans, their ancestors came from somewhere else, and really tried to carve a place out for themselves, which is exactly what Stephen Yeun's character Jacob is trying to do. I can tell you it may be a melodrama about farming and family politics, but at the same time, I was pretty riveted while I was watching it. Although I can say, knowing just how these things go, I was just waiting for the drama of whatever horrible thing was going to unfold against them, the comedy of terrible things that were going to happen to them at any moment. So I was just on edge watching this thing, waiting for all that stuff to happen.
That's interesting. And I think, so I have a note about that. I found Minari to kind of be just sweet and touching and entirely emotionally resonant film. One thing I was not prepared for, Matt, was how funny it was at times. And there are some like laugh out loud moments in this thing. So it's loosely based on the writer-director Lee Isaac Chung's childhood. And I think he spins, Matt, this gorgeous, gorgeous tale about what it means to be family, right? No matter where you are. But also, as you said, this film is really just specifically dealing with the mythic America that we always hear about, right? Where you can strike out on your own and you may face adversity, but if you just continue pushing forward, that maybe you'll find a way to kind of make it. But one of the things about what you said there is I found it's not filled with any of these melodramatic, overwrought turns, right? There are, I think, they are there, right? But it's not some grand, like, a lightning bolt strikes down the home, or the matriarch of the family gets, killed by a plow and everything gets destroyed. There's no majestic, grand thing. It's a small film, but I think that is one of its big successes. I think Chung does a great job by keeping it kind of small like that. I found it that much more captivating, and I really became invested in the Yis. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I was totally invested with the Yis, and I'm not saying necessarily that, families don't have to face tragedy, but while it is a small story, all of the tragedies, of which there are several, in kind of succession order,
Mhm.
they kind of all happen. And granted, they're not, like you said, a bolt of lightning coming out of the sky and blasting Stephen Yeun off the face of the earth kind of thing. But
It's not like he has
it
a heart
is,
attack while he's in the field, and now the family has to figure out how they're ever going to move on. There are challenges, but they weren't these catastrophic.
well, I think they were catastrophic in the sense that they had the potential to completely destroy the family unit or
True.
bring on an undue burden onto an already stressed, financial situation. Those kinds of things are there. I think what the point is that even when they're this close to giving up, they can somehow find a way to keep going on and still kind of push forward with what they're doing. But I think, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's, in quick succession, you have, a bunch of possibly debilitating circumstances that could bring people down, and they all kind of pile up on top of each other. Like, I don't want to say what those are, but each of those things, there's like 4 or 5 of them in a row, like that just kind of happen all of a sudden. So I knew that kind of stuff was coming. It's not as bad as I was trained to, like, by watching these films, to expect. Like, you're right, like you expect the mother to get like hit by a car while she's like shopping for groceries or something, like,
Right,
but
yeah.
you don't see something like that. But there are a series of serious hardships, and I think it wouldn't be fair to say that those things maybe they could happen, and it's interesting that they kind of all happen in quick succession for the purposes of the story. But I think that's on point for what he was trying to show, as far as, how these people continue to kind of push forward and retain themselves while still pushing for their dreams.
Yeah. I don't know. Fair. I think there's some beautiful shots in this film that are perfectly melded too, with like this minimalistic score that consists basically of strings and kind of, how would I describe it, like passive synthesizers, right? They use a lot of these beautiful shots of the sunrises, sunsets, right, and them framed by the sun coming through the clouds a lot of times, and just beautiful looking film. And I think Yoon here has been in some really great films. I'll be honest with you, Matt. With him on The Walking Dead, I always kind of never really gravitated to his character at all. I was never really drawn to him at all. And I think with this, and then of course The Burning from a few years ago, which is a film I love, that I'm really impressed with this work. But I think for me, the stars of this film are likely going to be Alan Kim, who plays the boy, David Yi, and then Yuh-Jung as Sun-Ya, the grandmother. I think.
Oh yeah, the grandmother's A+. Grandmother is the best, is the standout of this thing. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's very funny, and but the two of them together, particularly to David Yi, or Alan Kim as David Yi, is really the heart and the forward momentum of the film. So yeah, no, I enjoyed this thing a lot. So what do you think, Matt? I have a question for you, but do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think it's worth the attention that it's getting. It's a good solid film, and I think it's got a lot of heart to it. That is, honestly, it's not marred by tragedy, which a lot of these films that we've been watching have been, which I think is good for kind of being stuck inside in the circumstances of the day. I mean, I don't know, if I could watch one more thing about awful people and awful things happening. So, I'm glad that we got a little break from that for this go round.
Just wait about 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we'll talk about that as well.
So one of the controversies, Matt, with this film too, when it's been hitting the award circuit and doing quite well, is that it's getting shuffled into the international release or foreign language film category, because the film is roughly 90% in Korean via the language. And I guess for the Golden Globes, their categorization is 50% and above. If you hit that mark, then you're considered a foreign language film. But it is one of the more, I think, as we said in the opening, quintessential mythic America stories. Do you think it's fair for it to get shuffled off into those categories? Now, obviously, the Oscars haven't been announced yet, but they're coming up. Well, don't the countries have to submit them?
Yeah, so I don't know. Is it foreign language film in the Oscars, or is it like just a foreign film? I don't know.
I think they changed it from foreign language film to international feature or something like that a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, if it obviously wouldn't fit the bill of international feature, and honestly,
Right.
I wouldn't have a problem with it necessarily if that didn't automatically seem to preclude them from getting into things like Best Picture, which almost definitely seems to happen. So, I mean, the Golden Globes is a kind of a joke anyways. So if that's the rules, that's the rules, but they should have put it into the best drama movie category as well. I don't think it should have excluded it from anything. But I'm not up to date on the Oscars on what they do for foreign films, because this is not a foreign film, but I guess in the most technical sense, it is a foreign language film.
Yeah, well, but it's doing exceptionally well in the awards circuit. Would you consider it one of the best films of 2020? Now, remember, folks, it's no rules this year, so this is a 2021 film for the show, but
Right.
it'll be eligible for the 2020 Oscars.
Yeah, I think it is one of the best films of the year based off of, I think this is perfect awards bait stuff. And I think at the same time, kind of going up what we've actually got for 2020, it's a really strong contender just based off of what actually came out this year.
Mm-hmm. It did win the best foreign language film at the Golden Globes. Now, Matt, I am once again back on my bullshit and handing out A's like candy. So I did give Minari an A. Where did you fall down?
Yeah, I gave it an A as well. I enjoyed it. This is a film that I could actually see myself watching again, which I can't say for a lot of the films this year. I mean, as good as Nomadland was, I don't know if I'll be sitting down to feel bad about myself for an hour or so.
There you go. This is the, fourth or fifth show that I've given out at least one A in a row.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. You have no integrity.
I don't. So if you've seen Minari, which you can stream through kind of virtual screenings now to your local independent hard house theater. I think A24 is offering virtual screenings directly as well. You can do that. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's spend a few minutes then and talk about what's coming out on physical media this upcoming Tuesday, March 9th.
This is Alfredo Garcia. He's about to become a very important man.
We are looking for an old buddy of ours, a compadre named Alfredo Garcia.
A private army is scouring 3 countries to find Alfredo Garcia.
Well, don't worry, if he's alive, I'll find him. Alive isn't our problem.
Someone has offered $1 million for his head.
If I ever get my hands on him, I'm going to kill him. All we ever require from you is physical proof that Garcia is dead.
And we're prepared to settle for his head.
Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia.
Sam Peckinpah's classic is being released on Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. So if you've never seen Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, now's your big chance to pick it up. Also coming out on March 9th is Stanley Tong's Vanguard. He once again teams up with martial arts legend Jackie Chan. It's about a covert security company, and it's the last hope for survival for an accountant, Matt, after he's targeted by the world's deadliest mercenary organization. Includes a making-of featurette. I've been on a Jackie riff lately. I rewatched Police Story. I have the Criterion set, and then I bought a bunch of them. They had a sale about 2 weeks ago on iTunes, basically $5 for almost a dozen Jackie Chan movies. So I got a few of them. So I rewatched Rumble in the Bronx, which I haven't seen in a long time, and Drunken Master, right? So, and some other stuff. So I got to get more into some martial arts films, Matt. I'm really behind on that stuff.
Yeah, but we've caught up some. You've watched some of the classics. We're getting there.
That's true, thanks to you. Shout Factory is releasing Rent-A-Pal. Set in 1990, a lonely bachelor named David searches for an escape from the day-to-day drudgery of caring for his aging mother. While seeking a partner through a video dating service, he discovers a strange VHS tape called Rent-A-Pal, hosted by charming and charismatic Andy, played by Will Wheaton. The tape offers him a much-needed company, compassion, and friendship. But Andy's friendship comes at a cost, Matt, and David desperately struggles to afford the price of admission. Includes 3 making-of features on that one. The Ip Man series continues. This one, of course, not without Donnie Yen. This one is Kung Fu Master. During his time as a police captain in Foshan, Ip Man is targeted by a vengeful gangster just as a Japanese army invades the region. Russian Raid. Nikita, a former Russian Spetsnaz operative, is hired to neutralize a large private security force at a local factory so that his shady employer can extort the business from the factory owner. But Nikita and his group of highly trained fighters might get more than they bargained for. Antigone, which is a modern adaptation of the classic Greek tragedy, is being released. Kino Lorber is also giving us The Reason I Jump, based on the book by Naoki Higashida. This immersive film explores the experiences of non-speaking autistic people around the world. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is releasing Tukubuki. I'm assuming I got that right. Two young lovers long to leave Dakar for the glamour and comforts of France, or France, but their escape plan is beset by complications both concrete and mystical. Brand new 2K restoration of the film, a bunch of archival interviews, as well as a 1968 short film with a brand new 4K restoration called Contras's City. Matt, I know you're looking forward to this one. Mill Creek is releasing a bunch of new films in their pseudo VHS slipcover thing, where it looks like you're pulling the VHS out of the case. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Gold Diggers, The Secret of Bear Mountain, featuring Anna Klumsky and Christina Ricci. The Sigourney Weaver helmed film Gorillas in the Mist. And of course, John Goodman as The Babe. Kino, along with Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, is releasing The Don is Dead, featuring Anthony Quinn and Robert Forster. After his mistress is savagely beaten up by a mafia leader, he goes after the killer with a bloody vengeance. Soon after the hunt begins, a gang war ensues. What about The Choir Boys? A group of Los Angeles cops decide to take off some of the pressure of their jobs by engaging in various forms of after-hours debauchery. A film that I am sure is aged well. New audio commentary featuring critics Howard Berger and Nathaniel Thompson, a new interview with the actor Don Stroud, and more. Mondo Macabro is releasing a pair of films, Matt. Blood Ceremony, the aging countess discovers that the blood of a maid can temporarily restore her youth and great beauty. And then, of course, Queens of Love. A young hippie kills a man and seeks refuge at the lakeside house of three beautiful sisters who seem to be hiding a dark secret. I wonder what that secret is. Code Red is releasing The Forest. A cannibal hermit living in the woods preys on campers and hikers for food supply. Includes audio commentary by the producer, director, and star, as well as a separate one including the cinematographer, a making-of featurette, and more. Warner Archive is releasing Damn Yankees, Their Bermuda Depths, The Great Caruso as well, and they just announced on Twitter today, Matt, a brand new restoration of the Bill Murray classic Quick Change. And then finally, you're going to have Dread from Best Buy, the brand new 4K Steelbook release. So if you're a Steelbook guy, I looked at it. It looks pretty good. It's reminiscent of the classic Dread comic book art. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, Matt, I'm going with Nitro Rush. Max is serving time for the role he played in a police officer's death. When the film begins, Max learns that a criminal organization has just recruited his 17-year-old son, Theo. Desperate to get him out of the situation, Max escapes from prison. He discovers that Theo and his best friend Charlie have fallen under Daphne's control. I'm assuming that's Scooby-Doo related. An alluring femme fatale who is taking advantage of the teens' expert computer skills to plan a bold and risky burglary. Quickly understanding he'll be unable to persuade his son to walk away from it all, Max joins the team to protect them. His driving skills and his athletic prowess will prove to be invaluable assets in this action-packed sequel. And I had no idea this was a sequel. Matt, what should we be streaming this week?
I'm going to recommend a documentary because we don't give documentaries enough love on this podcast. But I'm going to recommend Werner Herzog's 2005 Grizzly Man about the obsessed Timothy Treadwell and his obsession with grizzly bears in Alaska that ultimately ended up getting him killed. It's a very interesting look at a very troubled man. It's available on, I believe, Amazon Prime. Yes, Amazon Prime.
That scene where he's sitting there listening to the tape with Treadwell's widow.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that thing is not good. All right. Wow. Things are going great. I'm in a happy mood now. Let's go ahead and keep the show rolling and spend a few minutes talking about I Care a Lot.
You hold stock in Golden Light Care Homes, right?
Yeah, we have a chunk.
Sign some over to me. Come on. I'm helping you feed the money monster, but I hardly see any of the gold for myself. Give me a taste.
Done. But it has to be a real cherry, bona fide.
Jennifer Peterson.
She's in reasonably good health, but recently she has shown some signs of memory loss and confusion.
Significant.
No, but we can tickle that to make an emergency hearing go our way. She has no kids, no husband, no living family.
No family at all.
She has very good insurance. She told me she used to work in finance in Chicago and moved here to retire.
Can I get a copy of all this?
You bet. All except her test results. That wouldn't be ethical.
Matt. All right, so we have I Care a Lot, currently available on Netflix. Rosamund Pike plays Marla Grayson. She is a Massachusetts con artist who works within the system to basically have her granted guardianship over elderly people, right? And then she basically has them confined in these facilities and then just strips them of all their assets. And she runs afoul of one particular patient who is more than she seems. So, I tend to like con artist movies. I think David Mamet has turned out a couple really great ones. You haven't seen like House of Cards, or House of Games, which is great, and The Spanish Prisoner. So I'm usually into this kind of thing. And of course, we all adored Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl. So she's once again able to take this really just bad person turn. But in the end, it turns out, Matt, we got like two bullet trains hurtling at each other at breakneck speed, except like one's like the train's is like an evil asteroid, and the other one's a evil mad scientist is piloting another asteroid, and it's like I'm still working this out. So basically, the victim in this case has a son who may or may not be involved in the mob in some capacity, and he is willing to do anything to get his mother back. So who are you rooting for, Matt, in this film?
So I hate, I mean, and maybe I don't hate to say this. This film really did a lot of work to make me hate the main character so damn much. And I think because of what it is she does and the fact that she preys on this vulnerable segment of society. Like, the only thing that could have been worse is if like she was doing this with orphans or something, right? And like And like I hated her so much that I wanted her to get her comeuppance so badly throughout this whole thing, and it drove me crazy. Like when those things were about to happen, that they somehow, the bad guys, or let's just say the antagonists, since I mean I can't really compare them as any more worse than she is, that they didn't follow through. They didn't just do the simple thing. Like, it was right there. All you had to do was just do it Michael Corleone style and be done with it. Like, drove me crazy. God, I wanted her to get a comeuppance so bad, and it really frustrated the hell out of me, because it's a weird film because you're really invested and interested in watching what's going on, but both of these people are terrible, and I somehow sympathized with the gangster more than I did with Rosamund Pike's character, who I could not stand.
I agree with you entirely. And there are a couple James Bond villain moments where they just kind of walk away to let them meet their fate. You're like, no, you got to make sure. And yeah, I agree with you. It's weird because there's lots of bad people here doing horrible things, but I agree. I'm rooting for the gangster. And let's clarify things too. The gangster is played by Peter Dinklage. And I really think that this is his wheelhouse. I know he's a fan favorite from Game of Thrones, but give me crazy bearded gangster Dinklage 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. And I don't know what it is, but I love him in that role. Though granted, I also adore the station agent. So think of that what you will. But I agree with you. There is how do I put this? There's like a purity that doesn't exist in Pike's character, because of who her victims are. Like you say, she's willing to take advantage of the elderly and the infirm, these really vulnerable people. The mob guy, Dinklage guy, I'm like, there's a distance between what he does, right? And a lot of this stuff for the mob is you're volunteering to participate in some philosophical capacity of what brings his involvement in. But she is a shark hunting people at all times. So I think that's why you kind of lean, I guess, towards him. I guess, I don't know. Everybody in this film was horrible, but it just throttles along, man. This thing cruises for a while, Now, I struggle with maybe the final third. I don't know if it works as well as the rest of the film does. It kind of goes off the rails a bit. Though I will say the finale, or maybe I should say the coda, I don't know, I think is the perfect bow tie, I think, for the film, and brings it all back together for me. And a couple quick things I want to mention, a little first run focuses. This is something I just made up on the spot. I want to single out Chris Messina's wardrobe, because he looks fantastic in these suits. And also that one scene he has with Rosamund Pike where he plays the attorney representing Dinklage is just... I could just watch that scene over and over again. He has this slimy, casual, sly, sexy menace, and it's just... He plays it perfectly, and she plays it right back to him. But you can feel kind of a bit of fear with the way he's doing it. And then Diane Wiest, too. It's a small part, and there's really just one massive scene with her alone that I think should get some Oscar votes attention. I think it's that powerful with Diane Wiest. So, I don't know, Matt. For me, in the end, greed is bad, baby, is how I look at this thing. It's a lot of fun, and it works for a long time, stumbles a bit, and then kind of straightens itself out. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, but the thing that I struggle with, that where it straightens itself out, she's gone from a shark to owning a global school of sharks where she trains more sharks, and that machine is going to continue to go with or without her. And it's just like, God, it's like, again, Peter Dinklage, if you had just not done your James Bond moments, just hire John Wick to do it, and it would have been fine, But instead, now there's like this whole global thing, and I don't know.
Plus, it's the greed that wins out after everything that's happened.
Right.
It's the greed between the two of them that eventually wins out. Right. So it almost robs you of that cathartic release, which is a weird thing to say, but it does.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. In the end, Matt, I Care a Lot a B.
Did you? I gave it a C+ for as into it as I was watching it. I hate Rosamund Pike's character so much that I can never see myself watching it again. I hated her so much.
Well, that's good. I mean, she won a Golden Globe, so that's a good performance.
I guess. I mean, it doesn't even have the benefit of like a Breaking Bad where you can kind of see the progression. She's just evil from the start, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, well, some of us are like you, and other people like me are sweet and kind.
Yeah, actually, it's very fair. Very fair.
If you've seen I Care a Lot, which is currently available on Netflix, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, Matt, put on your smoking jacket, light them up, pour yourself a glass of whiskey or whatever it is you drink. I'm assuming it's something very masculine. Let's relax a bit and spend a few minutes in the lounge. Look at that. Werner Herzog makes another appearance in the show.
Twice. You guys are lucky.
I tell you. So, Matt, my first question for you in the lounge. Has Pedro Pascal replaced Jesse Plemons as America's sweetheart? I mean, the film Twitter adores this guy. And I'll be honest with you, so do I. I just started watching Narcos. And I'm, I think, about 4 episodes in. And there's something just magnetic about this guy. I'm not quite sure what it is. What's going on?
Yeah, I like Narcos a lot too. I like Pedro Pascal, but I think honestly it's more about Pedro Pascal as a person, especially with the kind of Gina Carano stuff. And I hate to sound dismissive here, but it is Twitter. So I mean, there is, which I can't stand either. I've gotten rid of almost all of my social media, Chris. I'm down to Twitter, and that's it.
Oh wow!
And I'm this close to getting rid of it too. The only reason I keep it is because of this show that nobody is following me about for. So, but I think that's a lot of it. As far as Jesse Plemons, I think I would still get more excited for Jesse Plemons in a role just because he's got a wide variety of stuff that's in there that he can play that I've seen him do. I'm not comparing them as insofar as one is a better actor or not, but I think just by the breadth of roles Jesse Plemons has done, I would probably still be more excited to see him in the roles. But that's not to say Pedro Pascal couldn't continue to impress me as we go forward.
Well, yeah. Are you I'm really looking forward to The Last of Us, and he has been cast as Joel, which I think is a great choice, and I cannot wait to see that show next year. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm actually I started playing The Last of Us Part 2 just like a month or so ago, because I started replaying the first game because it was a free download on PlayStation Plus, because I had it on my PS3, which is basically just a nerd at this point for me.
Right.
And I got stuck in that scene where they're in the building and you're in the bottom in the cellar, and he's got to start the generator. And as soon as he does, he gets swarmed. And I couldn't get out of that scene after like 5 tries, because I'm playing on the hardest level now since I beat it previously. And I got so upset with it. And then I also got freaked out playing it again. Part of me was like, I've owned The Last of Us Part 2 for like 2 months before I even played it. I had to be in the mood for it. And now that I have been, I've just been blowing through it. It is so good.
Yeah.
But that is a show like that, and Why the Last Man are 2 shows I'm probably most excited about that are coming up. So, but are you excited for either of those?
Yeah. I have played the first game, so I'm excited to see Last of Us, although, slightly tempered expectations, because it is yet another zombie show, so we'll see how that goes over. Whereas Why the Last Man, I'm really interested to see. It's funny, I think the first few snippets of footage has come out for Why the Last Man on like a Hulu reel for FX shows on Hulu.
Yeah.
So that you did see a quick snippet of Olivia Thirlby, which is funny because I just caught Dread over the weekend. It was just on, and I sat down and watched it. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that. Been waiting for that one for a long time, so I think I'm more inclined to be excited for that one.
Yeah, well, I think it was supposed to be a film once, right? Then a limited series, and then I think it's been in development hell for a while. I think 3 previous versions of it were in production at some point or another. So, but I don't know. Another show too, speaking of zombies, I am like a season and a half behind on The Walking Dead, and I just don't. And then the new season starts now, if it hasn't already. And I have I have no juice to revisit that thing at all to catch up.
Yeah, I stopped watching it probably like 4 or 5 seasons ago. I just I'm just not into it. It was even before. I think it was even before, spoiler guys, Carl's death that I heard about. I think it was even before that when I stopped watching. Coral.
I want to wrap up the TV talk, at least from me, with one last question for you, and then I'll actually let you posit something.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I have watched the first 2 episodes of Superman and Lois, and it is quite good. It still has those CW trappings where it's a little heavy on the family interpersonal drama, but the Superman stuff, it kind of nails.
Okay.
And I'm really surprised. The Tyler Hoechlin, however you say it, I was not really initially impressed with him as Superman. I don't know if he just doesn't have the bulk for it, but he's got the Clark stuff, and he's got the Kansas gee whiz kind of wholesome kind of guy thing. And I was also a little concerned because him and Lois are married with like 2 kids in this show. Okay. And it looks like there's like a 10-year age difference between them for some reason. No, they're both like, 14. Anyway, it works though. It really, and it's the best depiction of Superman on the screen I think I've seen since the Christopher Reeve films. They really were able to capture what's been missing for me this entire time. So,
I will check it out, but I have a feeling this is going to be like a Flash kind of thing. Like, whereas I really liked the first season of the Flash, and like it just went steadily downhill from there until it became what it became, kind of thing. So I have a feeling that this is going to be more of that. I think it's going to really start to lean into those CW interpersonal dynamics, which if that's your thing, that's fine, but it's not my thing. So we'll see. But I'll for you, Chris, I will check out the first.
You should. And I finally finished season 6 or 7, the penultimate season of Era. And I watched, and I also started watching the most recent season of The Flash. I know the first episode of this season just aired yesterday, but I don't know. I'm so behind on everything.
Yeah, I know. And now you got the Invincible cartoon coming out in like a couple weeks.
I never read that though, so I'm sure. And I'm not big on animation stuff typically.
No,
Nah.
I mean, it's a pretty cool comic. I mean, it goes back to the well of what if Superman was bad, but instead of like psychotic like the Homelander from The Boys, it's
Or Brightburn.
what if he was more insidious kind of thing. It's very interesting.
Fair enough. What do you got? Your turn.
So, how do you feel about this whole new theatrical guidelines? Do you think that's going to go through? I know Paramount has moved from 90-day to 45-day exclusivity. I think Disney's moving in that direction as well, as you can kind of see as the stuff goes through. Netflix is very excited about it. Good idea or bad idea?
I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore about any of this stuff.
No.
I think it's just going to become a niche or niche thing, It's going to the theater going to be like vinyl collecting, right? Where there's a dedicated group of people who like that experience, and then obviously to be a larger group of people, but
is every theater's the Alamo Draft House, which is declaring bankruptcy, but still.
Exactly. And they announced today that the Ritz, like at the big downtown theater that they own, is done.
Yeah. Wow.
So I assume this is the way of the future. So I'm assuming it's going to result in higher ticket prices. The theaters, I imagine, are going to get a bigger cut of the ticket sales at this point too.
You think so? Okay.
What's the incentive for them? How does that work? How do they? The theaters make money the longer a film is there, right? Because the percentage of the box office they get increases the longer a film is there. Like I've been condensing my collection and burning old Blu-rays or DVDs and stuff, and I came across The Sixth Sense, and there was another one too. I was thinking about the other day, like a Ghost, right? Dirty Dancing, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There are no films like that anymore that I could think of. Just your slow burns that just catch fire and then run forever. And the theaters just cash in. Like The Sixth Sense and Dirty Dancing and Ghost, the theaters made a bunch of money off of that stuff. Right. And you just don't see that. I don't know if it's just that type of film isn't made anymore. You either have your kind of smaller independent films or you have your big blockbuster things. Mm-hmm. So there's no like mid-grade cinema really as much anymore. Or maybe we've just been out of theaters for so long. I've lost all.
Well, I think part of it though is that you got to look at when those films came out. I mean, there was no streaming. I mean, there was home video, but you still had to get it into the right format. You had to print them. You had to get them out, and all that all took time. Whereas now, you can just once it comes out of the theater, you could put it on a streaming platform like the next day. There would be no delay, so there's not as much reason to keep that stuff going in the theaters, for forever, like those films were.
There's another thing too that you kids don't appreciate. When VHS tapes first came out, they were like $50 a pop. I mean, they were $100. Like it was really expensive. They weren't mass produced like they were like a short time later. It would cost you a lot of money. Like a VHS player was like $500, $600, and each tape would cost anywhere from like $50 to $100. Crazy back then.
Yeah, well, I mean, you couldn't watch movies in your house. I mean, the Sunday night movie was like the only way you could watch movies in your house. Yeah. Otherwise, you were going to the theater. Those were your only options.
Yeah, it's Spotlight, which is like one of the few cable pay channels, like HBO. I think was Spotlight the first one, or did it turn into HBO? I can't remember now. I'm very old, is what I'm saying.
You want to put things in scary perspective? My Never Gonna Give You Up came on the radio, and my daughter knew who it was because of the internet and Rick rolling and everything like that. And she goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen that guy. He's really old now." I'm like, he's got to be like what, like in his 50s at the most, that's crazy. It's like, oh God, you're killing me, kid. I'm like 8 years younger than that guy.
You should have her emancipate herself, get her out of the house. So, I think that's what's going to shake out, though. I think that's what will happen. Concessions will go up. They'll get more specialized, and they'll have to get a bigger cut. I think that's the way it is now. I think that's the way. Yeah, and then, then they repealed the law where the chains can buy theaters. That's the next big step.
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, I think something's got to change. Theaters, even before the pandemic, were kind of on a lifeline as it is. So I think they just need to change the business model. And if this is going to shake it up somehow, so be it. It'll still be there at some point.
Sad. So, Matt, let me ask you, unless you have more to that, since I've been talking so much.
Mm-mm.
So what's going on then? What are your thoughts on Cara Dune, Gina Carano, and cancel? Now they're canceling Dr. Seuss, man.
I saw that. Yeah. So why are they canceling Dr. Seuss? I saw that were being pulled, but I didn't care enough to look into why.
The Dr. Seuss estate is pulling 4 or 5 of the books because of the portrayals in there of minorities and other races is less than good.
Okay.
So they're pulling those books, particular books. But it's the estate. It's not like Big Brother's coming in and saying, listen, you can't do that anymore. It's actually his estate that's doing it. Okay. And I know, and I read too that Richard Scarry had a similar issue years ago, and they actually just went in and redid the art and then just re-released it.
Okay.
But I immediately looked on Amazon and eBay to see what these books were going to start going for, because I'm just cynical. And they're like $500 a pop. Are
they?
Oh yeah, and you can't get them on Amazon; they're gone already.
Oh really? Yeah, I think
crazy.
My wife is really into Dr. Seuss, so we might actually have those sitting on the shelf. They may have to surreptitiously vanish from our shelves.
Yeah, you start paying for the kid first runs college education.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts on cancel culture in general?
I mean, it really, I guess it depends. It's like there's nuance to all this stuff. It really depends on what it's for. It depends on who it is, for better or worse. I really think it boils down to what the offense is. Some of these things, I struggle to even think of an example to kind of put into perspective here. But some of these things, like, I think they're, tempest in a teapot type of stuff. And other things, you should face some kind of action against some of these things. I think you're free to think whatever you want, but that doesn't mean people have to agree with you or support you. And if somebody decides that they don't want to do those things, then that's absolutely fine with me. That's a decision that everybody has to make. And, if a company ultimately decides that you're more of a liability than you are a moneymaker for them, I can certainly see that them getting rid of you, even if it's just for purely capitalistic reasons.
I think that's what gets lost in all of this as well. If Disney didn't have any concerns about the financial, they don't care really about that. It's can they make money? The same thing. Is Song of the South locked up because it's offensive? Yeah, but if they released it, it would look really, really bad.
Right.
It's basically, it boils down to, it's the free market. The market is speaking up and saying, we don't want this.
Yep.
Right? So, and I think that's basically what it is. And the big difference now is that, unlike when you and I were younger, well, I was younger. You're still a babe. But when I was a kid too, there was no internet. There was no platform for people who were part of oppressed groups to really be able to speak out outside of marches, right, and protests. There was no online. You couldn't interact with groups and businesses and stuff like you can today, and stars, whatever the case may be, right? So that's just what it is. Now people basically now are you're just being held accountable for opinions that previously you didn't have to really worry about. That's why people like all the older white male comedians who complain about there's certain things you can't joke about anymore. It's the entire history of the country is like that. All right, things and times change. You have to adapt and just understand, how cultural norms change. That's really all it is. Are there some things that get out of control? I'm sure there are. But there are some things that, listen, and of all these big stars who have been canceled, they always seem to land on their feet, right? I think I don't know. They all still tend to have platforms somewhere. But you can't force other companies, your Twitters, your social media companies, to maintain stuff if people violate their terms of service, because they are independent companies. So, I don't know. I get the Gina Carano stuff. I mean, she said a lot of horrible stuff for a long time. Yeah. And she was on the gravy train. Disney had producing a show where she was going to star, but she couldn't help herself.
Right.
And Disney is under no obligation to keep her employed.
I agree. I agree. It was funny is that even Disney now, I had heard about this. I hadn't seen it myself, but I guess they put a disclaimer in front of Aladdin on Disney Plus about how some of the depictions can be deemed offensive and stuff. So I guess it's really, we'll see how much longer stuff like that even lasts. I mean, things are moving in a different direction. And, like I said, most of it's, I think, is extremely valid. I think sometimes it does get a little out of hand. It may be a much more vocal minority than you think.
Right. True.
I mean, for an example that I did think of, I mean, it's a small example, but I'm a big D&D fan. And I don't mean Dan and Dave from Game of Thrones. I mean Dungeons and Dragons. So I watch and I listen to some of the actual play podcasts. And one of the most popular ones is called Critical Role, where it's a bunch of voice actors playing. And they got some flack from the group or the fan base at large because they thought that this one person's character, they visualized her as kind of like a chubby younger person. And when she actually had the art done, she viewed her as more of a conventionally attractive 20-year-old, and people were upset about that. And they were upset about them having relationships between two married couples in real life. They thought that it shouldn't have gone that way. So it's just, I think some of this stuff I just don't agree with it when it gets to the point. It's because I want it to be this way. Like, I think it should be this way. So therefore I'm going to force it to be this way. Not because it's better for, society as a whole, like the whole Gina Carano thing.
That's interesting. That's a good point. And that it is sometimes a loud but small group, right? When I think back to one of the last, and there's a side project that I did that you may be hearing about in the next month or so, that back when Dogma was released, there was this big move by a small group of people to try and ban the film because they felt it was blasphemous and stuff. And if you watch the film, it's actually quite the opposite. But still, yeah, I think it's interesting that sometimes it is a small group that just happens to be very loud. And there are bad examples of people being overly, I don't want to say overly protective, but they overreaction. Like, I think when Netflix pulled the Dungeons and Dragons episode of Community, Chang was a dark elf and he had painted himself black, right? And they even addressed it in the show in that episode, but Netflix pulled it.
Yeah, which is a shame because that is one of my favorite episodes of TV ever made. It's so good.
It is one of the best in the series, but it is. I guess it's on Prime now, and the episode is on there.
Okay,
so
we'll see for how much longer because Hulu pulled it too.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
which is weird culture is real.
Yeah,
I've come full circle.
Which is weird because they left an episode where Pierce is actually in real brown face makeup, like he's playing like an actual black. They left that episode, but they didn't. But they took out the one where Chang is dressed up as a fantasy character, and maybe it hurts me just so much because I love that episode so much. It's so good.
Well, we'll just wait the 9 to 12 months that Tropic Thunder discourse turns around again on Twitter. That seems to always happen.
There you go.
There, what do you got?
Let's see. So I know you wanted to talk about it. Can we talk about it now?
No, I think we should close with it.
You should close with that? Okay. All right. So then I guess the only other thing I got coming out is the new Godzilla versus Kong thing. Do you think this is the last one of these? Like, I don't see where they can go with this at this point after this. Are we bringing in Megalon in this? Are we bringing in Jet Jaguar?
Yeah.
I want to see Jet Jaguar. That would be awesome to see Jet Jaguar in here.
Yeah, of course we can. There's a lot of different things we can do. Absolutely. Depends on how the film does, but yes. I still think in the end, I know that in one of the trailers, it looks like Godzilla is being manipulated in some capacity. I don't know if he's being blackmailed. Something's happening where they say, like, why is he doing this? This is not like Godzilla type of a thing. Right. So maybe there's a secret baddie in the background controlling stuff that the two of them will then team up. You know, like a Batman versus Superman. Maybe they both have a mother named Martha, and they'll both realize what's happening and turn their, join forces. But no.
Can you blackmail a prehistoric lizard?
I don't know. Maybe they're holding Godzuki hostage.
Maybe they got Mothra under, like in a cage somewhere.
If I remember correctly, Mothra didn't make it from the last film.
Oh, did he not?
Let's get our pronouns correct.
Okay, sure. Okay, I apologize I apologize to the Mothra contingent. Obviously, I was not as up to date with it because I can't even remember if she survived in the last movie or not.
I don't think she did. I don't think she made it out.
Although I did know, you're right. I did know that Mothra is a female, so I apologize to the Godzilla fans out there.
Thank you. I mean, I think the fact that you blow King Ghidorah out already from then that second film, I think it's somebody you'd want to build up to that bad guy. I mean, he is one of the coolest cats in the whole entire universe. But
sure,
either way, that's fine. Yeah, no, they'll come up with something. Like you said, Mechagodzilla, Jet Jaguar, any of that stuff is still to come.
Yeah, I guess Mechagodzilla would be the penultimate. I think that would be the one that you'd have to go with.
Maybe Cyberdyne creates a Terminator Godzilla that he has to come fight.
Yeah, so it'll be Mechagodzilla versus Terminator Kong. It'll be a Cyberdyne Kong.
Exactly. So you gotta be more creative in your thought process.
I guess so.
All right, I got one more I want to ask you, and then we'll go with the last one.
Okay,
Matt. There's no way that Mortal Kombat movie is going to be good, is there?
No, there's no way at all. Like it doesn't. I don't see why everybody's so excited about it. It doesn't look good, and there's no. Where is the score? Where is the song? I want to hear Mortal Kombat yelled really loud, and then I want to hear 90s techno beats. Like if the Blade movie doesn't have the Bloodbath song in it somewhere, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to walk out of the theater and I'm going to voice my opinion very loudly on the internet.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be, and I think a lot of people it looks like they think it's going to be kind of cheesy. It looks like the gore is going to be there, clearly from that Red Band trailer. But right. I don't know if it's going to be like this instant cult classic, like cheesy, gory thrill ride. I'm really concerned it's going to be a violent, just inert, dull movie is what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. But maybe if I get an uppercut and a toasty, maybe I'll be okay. But I don't know if I'm feeling it. We'll see. I will say that one of the trailer that it was all over the internet where Sub-Zero cuts Scorpion and freezes his blood into a dagger and then stabs him. Yeah, that was pretty good. We'll pretty cool. See if the rest of the film can hold up.
But I mean, Mortal Kombat's not known for its narrative force. I mean, basically, it's good. It's super violent in doses of a minute and a half. That's basically what the whole game is. I don't know what people are expecting. I think you're exactly right. It's going to be gory and it's going to bludgeon you into dull senses just with everything that's going on. It's going to be very inert, as you put it.
Yep. We'll see how that shakes out. All right, Matt, take us home.
All right. So from what I understand, they're coming out with a new Superman reboot. And I guess the word on the street is it's going to be a black Superman. So I guess the question is who is it going to be?
So Ta-Nehisi Coates has been tasked to write this reboot. Mm-hmm. And we know now that Warner is doing like 2 or 3 separate Batman projects all at the same time, existing at the same time in different universes. I guess we're really buying into the multiverse type of thing with this, which is fine. I have no issue with that. What I'm curious is if that's the plan with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Is he going to be Clark Kent or is he going to be Calvin Ellis?
Right. Or Val Zod.
Yeah, I'm curious what that's going to be. So we can talk about that. But first off, then, who do you cast? Michael B. Jordan has been lobbying for the part for a very long time, and he seems to be the layup choice.
Right.
I would go with Eli Gorey, who played Muhammad Ali in Five Nights in Miami. I think he's got the size. He's got the personality. He's charming, and I think he could pull off the Kansas farm boy type of thing very well. And I think he could do it. So he would be my choice to play Superman in Coates' version. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. So I feel like Michael B. Jordan is kind of like the go-to answer for anything. So like I'm kind of sick of Michael B. Jordan, and I don't mean that. I'm sick of him as like a superhero role. I think Michael B. Jordan's going to be in like a new Tom Clancy property that's coming out like this month, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think I would want him to do it. Honestly, when I was kind of looking around for this, he would have to slim down a lot, you know. He would have to like get more cut. But I almost kind of want to see Winston Duke do it. I think it would be fantastic. Have like this massive freaking Superman, just like, I mean, and granted, he's a bigger guy, and he would have, like I said, he'd have to cut up a little bit. But I mean, I think he would be really interesting to see him kind of put on that role, because we've seen him do, you know, nerdy in Us, and at the same time incredibly terrifying in Us as well. So I think it'd be something interesting to see. I think he could pull it off.
Yeah. No, I could see Winston Duke doing that too. And one thing I want to say, to bring back to Michael B. Jordan with Black Panther, is if I think the great thing to do with that would to bring back his character from Black Panther and give him a redemption arc where he becomes the Black Panther. I think that he survives the fall and the death and comes back and kind of reclaims his you know, becomes a good guy. I think that's always a much more interesting story, I think. So I don't know. That's just my idea. So Ryan, if you're out there listening, I think that might be the way to go for your next film.
Well, I mean, the comic lore would be that Shuri becomes the next Black Panther. But obviously, the problem with Letitia Wright and some of her comments about vaccinations and things have not gone over well. So, yep, she has. I don't know if she's canceled, but she's certainly retreated from the limelight for a little while. She's rebuilding her image at this point, turtling up, if you will, for the next explosion into public life.
Well, I can understand why she may be a little concerned. It's not like we have a great history in regards to Black people in medical stuff in the United States.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. It's just, especially in the environment
it's not a great message.
It's not a great message in the middle of a pandemic where you're trying to get everybody vaccinated so we can get back to normal.
Exactly.
That's not exactly the thing you want to put out there.
No, it is not. So the other thing I'm concerned about with Coates' Superman is I do not want another miserable, where's my place in this world Superman. And I feel like, depending on how Coates sets it, a Black Superman almost begs for that type of film. You have a superpowered alien who happens to be Black who shows up in the United States. I would think what Snyder did is, it's just that I'm sure Coates would come up with something incredible. But I almost feel like the story almost would demand that angle. And because then it would make the turn, I guess, when the country and the world accepts and loves him, that much more glorious and empowering, maybe. But I don't want it. I don't want it.
Yeah, I really don't want another Superman origin story. Give me like a really well-established Superman. Like, give me that. And I see like what you're saying exactly. If you had a Black Superman, that's like you're missing the boat on that story. But how many times do we have to see, you know, Smallville, you know, him being Clark Kent or whatever his alter ego is going to be? I'm sick to death of that story. I've seen it so many times. Give me just give me Red Sun and let's just go with that. Okay. Just give me that one and we'll proceed from there. Whatever you want to do.
I appreciate that. I'm still looking forward to it. And if it's a team-up thing where it's a multiverse thing so Cable can come back, I still think Henry Cavill was just screwed in that role. I mean, he hasn't had a chance to make a good Superman movie. And I think he's a really good Superman. He just hasn't had the opportunity to really do it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that would be interesting to see him come in like a side-by-side thing. You know, bring out, if you're going to maybe try and steal some of Marvel's thunder, you can bring Shaq back and he can play Steel along with the new Superman. But I would like to see Henry Cavill jettison all this and just go play Captain Britain. Just go play Captain Britain in Marvel and just be over with it, because I think he'd be a great Captain Britain.
What about James Bond?
Play a James Bond? Doesn't he seem too big to be James Bond?
I don't think so. Craig was big in that first film.
No, but I mean, like, Craig's not super tall.
Oh, you mean
right?
too big a star?
No. I meant like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know if I could see Henry Cavill as being James Bond. I don't know. I feel like he's too chiseledly handsome as opposed to like roguishly handsome, which is I think what you need in James Bond.
Have you seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the reboot thing?
No, I have not.
Check it out, and then let me know your thoughts.
Okay. Does that have Army Hammer in it?
Yes. I know you're a big Hammer fan.
Huge Hammer fan.
All right. Anything else?
Army Hammer should just lean into it and be like petition to become the new Hannibal Lecter. Like,
Why
if he
not?
gets the opportunity to be Hannibal Lecter, he should just do it.
Sure. Branding. All right, folks. I guess that's going to be the lounge. It's time to take off our smoking jackets, Matt, and get back to the real world. All right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, folks? What are your thoughts about poor Cara Dune? Whatever. Pedro Pascal. You love Pedro like we do? What are your thoughts on Coates' upcoming adaptation of Superman? Feedback at thefirstrun.com. Matt, next week on the show, I guess we have The Dig in Greenland. I don't know. We'll see. I like to keep Matt on his toes and change things around as much as I can, because I think there's something bigger coming out. So we'll have to shake that out. And as always, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you'll find us. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. We'll read it on the air and help other people find the show. And that's going to be it this week, folks. We're going to go ahead and take an extended break. And we will see you soon. And here, let's listen to Matt's one more thing that he says every night.
아이고, pretty boy, pretty boy, pretty.
I'm not pretty. I'm good looking.